In this project, I'm mainly interested on the connectivity patterns and reproductive ecology of different invertebrate species. I'm looking mainly at the most dominant megafauna species. In this cruise particularly, we looked at ophiuroids and echinoids for the reproductive ecology, and we used also this very big in situ pump to try to collect larvae that might be in the water column for connectivity studies. Connectivity on a very broad scale includes all the linkages between habitats and populations. And these can be migratory patterns, ontogenic and seasonal movements, larval dispersal pathways, genetic fluxes, but also linkages between trophic levels in the form of trophic webs. Strong connectivity promotes healthy ecosystems, healthy and resilient ecosystems. And when you break these linkages between populations, you may impact the resilience of these populations, and also how they recover after disturbance. And this is particularly important in the mining aspect. For the reproductive study, we've been looking at megafauna groups, and for this we sample animals on the seafloor with the ROV. So basically we sit in the container with the pilots and ask them to collect this or that animal according to the species, size, how easy it is to sample or not. And then we just preserve those animals accordingly for the different studies. Like our colleagues in the Senckenberg take a piece from all of animals for genetic connectivity studies, and I'm preserving them in formaldehyde, which is good for the reproduction studies because it preserves the structure of the animal. After that, we don't do anything else on board. We take everything home, and the following studies and processing of the samples are done in the laboratory, and this includes histology, so looking at very thin sections of gonads of both males and females, see how many males and how many females are in each population, and this allows us to find some patterns that can give clues to reproduction and connectivity patterns overall. Apart from collecting specimens, we also use the ROV to do video acquisition. We take images of all individual specimens that we collect, but we also do video transects, and these allow us to study species distribution patterns. With the ROV, we do slightly short videos, but we have another tool on board, which is the OFOS, the Ocean Floor Observation System, that allows us to do long transects, and this is done by towing a video camera and a still camera on a frame for several hours on the seafloor. So the ship just sails very, very slowly at 0.5 meters per second and tows these OFOS along, and it's always at the same distance from the seafloor, around 1 meter, and with this we can see all the species that live in this area that is videoed by the camera, and also takes a picture, I think, every 10 seconds, that also allow us to zoom in and look into detail in the animals, so we can later on identify them to the lowest possible taxonomic level. If mining really comes to occur, one of the main impacts, or the most obvious impact, is the removal of the nodules. And there's lots of species that settle as juveniles or as larvae in these nodules. So if you remove the nodule, this juvenile has no place where to settle. And this has not only a great impact on that animal, but in the whole population and connectivity. So if you remove large areas of nodule between this area and that area, there's no hard substrate in between, so this can be a barrier to connectivity between this side of the population, that side of the population, and that's the most obvious impact for organisms that settle on nodules. Apart from that, there's also, for instance, the plumes. If the plumes are toxic and you have a larvae that disperses in the water column and has to go through that plume and is affected by that plume, that larvae is dead, or may not be functional anymore and will not settle. So again, we create another barrier to dispersal and to connectivity. So you have one removal of substrate that makes a barrier, and you have an addition of a component in the water column that can be toxic to these animals as well. So this in terms of connectivity and reproduction and dispersal might be the most significant impacts if mining comes to a fact.